Hello everyone, this is Rangadad. This is just the way I'm looking at the market, not financial advice or anything like that. It's just how I get things sorted in my head at the start of a day. Interesting day on Bitcoin yesterday. I'm just probably just going to be expanding a little bit on what I talked about yesterday because it seems to be playing out, but we're coming into a pretty big resistance zone at the moment. So basically, starting on the daily, still not seeing any sort of indications on this smart money indicator. The stochastic momentum, if it closes here, is going to just sneak above that moving average. So it's just going to cross above the signal line. Typically, you don't see it flip-flopping too much on the stochastic indicator, so that would suggest more upside, but it's not a strong signal at the moment. So just one bit of confluence for us there. So interestingly, global liquidity is still running up. We pointed that out yesterday as well. It just seemed like a bit more of a move up than we have seen in this whole run over the last month or so. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious here. We're still in line to come back up and test this value area high, which is also basically, it's going to be a very strong resistance level as well. There's not actually a lot of orders in the order book up much higher than this at the moment. So there's not many people selling up in this area. So we could actually get a higher move, but at the same time, the market may not want to go there because there's not as much open interest in there. So, and we've still got the I guess the problem in the back of my mind is this a Wyckoff accumulation? In that, and I'm not a Wyckoff specialist by any means. I generally know the pattern. It's generally sideways. If it breaks out and then comes back inside the distribution area, then it's probably going to be a distribution, and it's probably going to go lower. This one here, if we actually break back inside this region and continue up, that's actually going to be a pretty bullish sign for me. In that this would be sort of that maximum fear kind of moment before reversing it for a Wyckoff accumulation. But there's a couple of things that worry me and why I'm still probably bearish in the next few months. One, we've left a lot of volume around here again, and you'll see on the heat map, liquidation heat map, that there's a lot of orders have come in for longs, but there's still not a lot coming in for shorts. So that there probably worries me a little bit. We haven't really started to jump the gap here either from this volume area that we're in. If we do break above this 200 EMA in the next few days, expect it to move pretty quickly up to that top of this candle here. It's probably going to pause at that point, and pause for a while, I would say. But yeah, as I said, there's not a hell of a lot of liquidity up here too, so it may actually try and push higher. Still a lot of overhead resistance though, so I don't like the fact that we've left a vector candle here, all the volume down here. but in the short term, we don't have to come back there, is I guess what I'm thinking. So there's still a potential for a push up and then a bounce off that region just to get everyone going long and thinking everything's okay. It was just a correction. But yeah, we're still expecting these sort of levels around that 54K, 53K mark to at least be retested in the next few weeks, I would say. Quick look at markets in general. Nasdaq's had an interesting day. A bit flat there. The actual Nasdaq. Yeah. I wouldn't even, that's not necessarily a topping signal either. It's not a great candle, probably reasonably choppy on the shorter time frames. Yeah. It's actually heading up towards the end of the day. So it was, Fed Powell was speaking at some testimony, something yesterday. I didn't really pay too much attention to that, but interesting that the stochastic on the 1 hour looks like it wants to go back up too. So yeah, Nasdaq's given us nothing really. SPY's the same. Still not looking quite as healthy as the Nasdaq, but so the equal weight actually had a little bit of an up day, but still in very much a region. So equal weight, Nasdaq still didn't break any records or anything either. So IWM, sorry, I wasn't looking at the friggin' daily then. IWM still sideways. Oh, so equal weight did actually come back down. Bearish engulfing there on the Nasdaq. Still flat on the S&P, but industrial's still heading down. This earnings season is still going to be something I'm paying a fair bit of attention to. Interesting that XLY XLP ratio wants to head higher. That suggests a little bit more bullishness to come. DJI gold is flat. DAX, ooh, yeah, okay. Pointed that out yesterday. The tweezers on the DAX suggested that wasn't looking strong. That's a pretty mean candle there, breaking below the 50 EMA and the 20 EMA. I'd expect a bit of downside on this. Could even end up forming a head and shoulders here, which would see it come down significantly in the next few months, I would think, if it plays out. Dixie retested the 50 EMA there. I mean, that's a fairly bullish candle, really. It's a reversal pattern. I'm not willing to call it until it's above the 50, to be honest, as going higher. It is in the bearish control zone on the stochastic on the daily. Little bit of an uptick on this though, so I'd like to see it above these moving averages. If we get above them, I would suggest it's going to come back up into the 106 at least. Or, sorry, up into 106 at least. Volatility index is still eking up a little bit. Nothing to write home about. Treasuries looks like it might come down a little bit. High yield bonds, again hitting sort of the upper regions of this more recent part of the zone that we've been in, and seemingly bouncing off a bit. So bonds may come down. Skew. Ooh, interesting. The skew has started to drop a little bit. Just trying to look at where, yeah, generally a downward trend on the peaks on skew is not a good sign. And it looks like we may have peaked back in February on the skew. Yeah, looking like skew is telling us expect a little bit of downside. Potentially more on the S&P 500 than the NASDAQ, but we'll have to wait and see, especially when NVIDIA's doing shit like this. Oops. Yeah, NVIDIA has just smashed through that resistance level that it seemed to be struggling to get through. Man, the stink if we get a double top on NVIDIA through earnings and then we drop. That'd cause a bit of a drop across the board, I would think. Copper, just a little retrace on this run up. Probably expect it to come back into this level here, the 4.53 sort of level. And then potentially go on another leg up. Gold. It's holding fairly strong at this level. Same sort of thing as just retesting this level here, which is providing a fair bit of support, I would say. You're looking for a daily close above this wick here, I would suggest would see us come back up to that 24, 25-ish at least. Let's have a quick look. Australian dollar is looking strong, but looks ready for a pullback. Could hit that 800 EMA though. That was our target from a while back. Kind of the next logical target, really. Maybe some short-term pullbacks, but I would say heading up there, which means the US dollar's probably, like the Dixie's probably going to drop a little bit more. Brazilian, okay, it's breaking above that resistance. So generally the other currencies are looking fairly strong against the US dollar. Again, euro, I would expect it to hit that, just based on where it's at here. Might get a bit of resistance there though. US 2-year, 10-year. Bounces definitely aren't as strong at the moment. Whether we get back up into these moving averages before we go lower, it'll be interesting, but we're definitely in a wedging pattern here. Check this out. I've got to turn the magnet off, hey. So that there is an interesting pattern. If we break below this lower level, then it's going to potentially bring us pretty close to that uninversion. I suspect I don't think we'll go straight down to that. I think it'll be sort of we'll get close, everyone will panic, but it'll come up a bit and then maybe we'll break it. We could dance around it for weeks or months as well, but it's just an interesting pattern that we're developing at the moment. Stocks above the 50-day moving average is still flat. Mag 7, bit of an indecision candle on the Mag 7 today. Still very much in that bullish control zone though, so hard to short these things. That indecision could break either way, but typically if you do clear that wick, and I'd suggest probably the previous day's wick to the downside, if we break below that, then I'd be expecting at least into this 20 moving average on the daily. If we break above that, obviously you're going to clear into new highs again. Oil is still making its way down. Bit of a wick forming here at that 20 EMA, which may provide a bit of support. A lot of the market seems on edge at the moment. Have a quick look at Ethereum on the daily. So Ethereum's doing the same thing. It's struggling to get above that 200 EMA. But again, if Ethereum clears this wick here, I would actually expect it to come back into that value area low and probably back up into that 20 EMA, if not the bottom of the Gaussian channel, just because we got this vector here. That's one to watch out for, but at the moment, we need to see clearances above that 200 EMA on the daily at least. So we're talking 58, 190 and change. But it looks like on the shorter time frames, we have been eking up. And for those that are listening from Origin, my bit rate's really low on this video. Anyway, hopefully it's okay. I just made a quick tweak this morning just to give it a little bit more breathing room, because we were getting to TP1 and then it was getting stopped out just a little bit more often in the backtesting than what I was liking, especially on choppy runs up like this. We just need to let it breathe a little bit more, that's all. And that seems to have actually bumped us up by about 20% over that backtest period on the 25x. Sorry, 10% on the 25x strategy. So we are finding a lot of resistance at that 58k mark. What I was mentioning earlier was this here, and I think we talked about it yesterday. Yeah. That was just a massive amount of volume in that 20-minute period. Huge amounts of volume. 23k Bitcoin, nearly 24k Bitcoin traded, and realistically it didn't drop very far. Like throughout this, all these drops and stuff that happen, we didn't see that much Bitcoin traded across the same sort of period. It was a longer time frame, and it just, for the market to react that quickly and to push up after that suggests to me that, yeah, there is a lot of buyers in here. The fact that it couldn't even push down to these sort of levels here, it's just a lot of buyers that were propping the market up at that point. So it made sense we ground up. But yeah, what I was going to say is liquidation tidied up a fair bit of liquidity in that little pump up there, but there is a lot a lot of people have been going long today. So don't be surprised if we come back down and clean all this up today. I would, but at the same time, that sort of 59k, even into the 60k mark, if we go into the longer time frames. Yeah, it's starting to build here, but you still look at that. There's a lot up higher in terms of liquidations. And, you know, if we zoom out on the chart a little bit, go to the 15-minute. You know, we are pressuring this sort of level here with, I'm just going to do that, basically a rising wedge. We may come back down, back into, if we were to draw a trend line sort of through here, you wouldn't really want to come down any further than that. But certainly the possibility is we swing back down here, clean up a bit of liquidity, and then break through on the next try when everyone has flipped to bearish again. So it's going to be an interesting couple of days. I think, again, more chop. We didn't have a super high liquidity day today, apart from that area. But yeah, it's not exactly looking strong coming into this level. But you got the 15-minute 800 EMA, you got the daily 200. It's going to take a bit to penetrate that, and it would kind of make sense if we did retest this area here before we went up. Because the other thing is, even though it looks on the daily like we've still got some action in here to worry about, if we do look at the 15-minute, it's cleaned up pretty well everything except this little candle here, this vector candle. And there's not a lot of volume in that. Yeah, it was a vector, but comparatively, it's not a lot of volume. Instead, it's come back down and it's tidied up this vector candle, which did have nearly double the volume. You know? And throughout this whole thing, what you want to see is non-vector candles basically recovering all the vector candles. And there's this one here is really the only one left since the bottom of that drop. So that's just another reason that maybe we might come back down into here, 54. But there's not a lot of vector candles to come back to. And I know people don't necessarily believe in vector candles and stuff like that, but it's surprising how much of an edge it can give you when you're looking at areas for reversals and for things to turn around. So that's my only concern, is just this wick here. Otherwise, we've done pretty well in terms of, it's only the daily time frame that we've got to, maybe some hourly time frames and stuff like that. But hope that makes sense. Basically, it all comes down to this level here. Probably the 15-minute is going to be the best guide. If we do break above that, I don't see much stopping us. Like, I think we'll pretty quickly come back up into that 60k area. All right. That's about it, I think. I'll catch you later.